everybody, welcome back to Spoonful of AI. I'm Carlos, and I have with me today Tim from Theoretically Media.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, thanks for being here.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, thank you for having me. This is my taste buds are ready for this podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to be serving lunch, but
Okay.
we could.
Okay, yeah.
AI lunch, by the way, maybe
AI
that.
lunch. You have to prompt your lunch.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
by
Uh-huh.
the way, that'll come up later in the show.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Prompting your lunch will come up later in the show.
Yes,
So,
it's actually something I have experimented with. So, yeah.
okay, there we
Yeah.
go. So, for people who don't know, tell people
Mhm.
about you. I mean, you have a huge channel on YouTube. You talk
Mhm.
about AI all the time. I found you because I was looking for what are the new apps, what are the new tools, and I went to you because you like reviewed all of them.
Mhm.
But so, how'd you get started in just like doing the YouTube channel?
Yeah, so early on, my channel very much focuses on content creation, very much video, audio, and image based. A lot of that, the channel initially began as actually a music tutorial channel. You can see
Oh,
keyboard over here, and then there's a bass guitar over there. And it was kind of done as like a after I'd worked in Hollywood for about 17 years, and after I had left it was just something fun to do because music is it's like that semi-professional hobby for me. I gigged in the past and done some recording, but it was just sort of a fun way to have a channel where I could explore ideas on it and whatnot. Around November of 2022, the first vestiges of what would become AI music started bubbling up with
hmm.
Stable Diffusion audio. So I did a little tutorial on how you could take yeah, it was really janky back then, by the way. Everything sounded like your like grandma's AM transistor radio was possessed by like a demon, like a
Yeah,
jazz demon from like and would play like this really scratchy, warpy music. So the idea was just to take like record something up and take a little snippets of those and then put them into I don't know, you can see back there the keyboard has like the little
right,
tippy
right, right,
tap
right.
thing.
Sample it.
You could
Yeah.
kind of make samples and beats out of them, and then after that you could take that in and do recording on top of it. That video did really well, and then I just sort of saw all of 2023 happening. It was like, this is going to be the big year for it. So, as things kind of progressed, I started off with like Mid-Journey cinematic tutorials using again a lot of like the stuff that I know from Hollywood, how to prompt in, with all of the various technical terms and whatnot. And then you would start to see we started to see around February, March of 23. God, was it then? The beginnings of Runway Gen 1. I think I had the very first video on YouTube about that. I've essentially been here since the beginning of it all.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting way in because I've also did bands and stuff, and I was just like
Mhm.
music was my whole life for a while.
For sure.
So I can relate to that. And
Yeah.
I did like the old school because here I'm gonna age myself.
No, sure.
The
Yeah. I
cassette,
got
like
the
the
Blu-rays
double
there as well.
cassette deck. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 Like, like
Uh-huh.
remixing.
Play pause, play pause, play pause.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All the younger listeners right now are like just tuning
No,
out. I
I
have
have
no
no
idea what
idea
to
what
talking
that, yeah.
about. But it was
So
like
isn't
this.
that like that's a hipster thing now, doing the old,
Oh,
like, recording digitally and then smashing it back down to, like, a Fostex 4-track and then kicking it back out to get that analog warmth instead
true,
of using
true.
plugins. So, yeah.
Yeah, what we were doing before was old school because it was the only school.
It's true, it's true. It was
But
the
yeah,
cheap spool on top of it too, yeah.
and I would do that thing where I push down on play and make it slow motion and then I
Mhm,
record
mhm.
that. So I've been doing it forever. I had the CDs. I was doing like what is it? What's that one called? Fruity Loops and
Fruity Loops, yep.
tons of those programs. And I would always be very interested in editing.
Mhm,
And I think that to jump to my background, like I was doing music, and then as soon
mhm.
as tech started intersecting with it in a
Interesting,
really
yeah.
big way,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, let me figure that out. And then of course video was really close behind.
Yeah.
And that's how I got started in the tech and content business as well, because I went to
Mhm.
San Francisco and just started doing video
Yeah.
editing and producing. So it is all very closely related.
Very much so, yeah. Sound is one step away from visuals. Visuals is it's funny too. I think coming from a sound background, you have a good understanding of this is like tangentially related to all of this, but back when Lucas was first experimenting with THX sound, which of course is like the sound system that's in every theater, he was doing like these, I guess, what you call beta tests, where he in one theater he would show The Empire Strikes Back with its original sound, and then in another theater he would show it with the THX sound. And then when the audiences came out, the THX people said that the picture looked better.
Oh,
Yeah,
snap.
yeah.
That is a perfect connection right there.
Uh-huh.
I remember going to this podcast is gonna go all over the place.
Oh, all over the place. Yeah.
But, I remember going to my first THX movie, and
Mhm.
I saved the ticket,
Oh,
and
cool.
I think it was, like, a bad movie,
Oh, sure. Yeah,
right? But
but
it
it
didn't
sounded
matter.
good.
It
Yeah, it
was
sounded great.
so incredible. That thing comes in again, you guys no one will know this because it doesn't do
Mhm,
it anymore, but this thing came up, like a screen came up,
mhm.
and it said, "The audience is listening." I remember that.
Rome. Yep. Mhm.
Boom, and I was like,
Rome. Yeah.
"What's happening?"
Yeah.
And all the audio just was all over the place. I'm like, "Oh my god,
Mhm.
this is amazing." So, okay, well, back on track.
Yeah.
The
Sorry.
podcast no, don't be
Mhm,
sorry. Um, I like to talk to people about how they use AI in their business. So we talk
mhm,
to businesses of all types, especially in the food tech business, but
mhm,
also just companies and content creators.
mhm.
We had Farplane on. We had a bunch of people from YouTube, Gavin on to
Yeah.
talk about how they use it in their content creation days as well.
Mhm.
So you obviously review AI. You talk to
Yeah.
all the companies. You work with all
Yep.
the apps. But how, like on a day to day basis, you get up? It's Monday today.
Yeah.
We're recording on Monday.
Mhm,
You have your coffee.
mhm,
You're reviewing a couple of things. But what
mhm.
tools are you using on your desktop to like that might be AI for your day?
So, funny enough, in terms of actual content and idea generation, very little. It's still very manual for me. I think that that is something that I've tried in the past, like AI summarizers and that sort of thing. They just don't really work for me. Um, I still have to have, and maybe that's one reason at least that my channel has done well is that I have to find the story in everything that I'm going through. So it's a lot of times I'm just going through my various news feeds, like that's interesting, that's interesting, that's interesting, and then from there you kind of move into scripting. Now, one thing that I will say, a lot of times with those very dense, I do tend to not review or just do news on kind of the latest breaking tech, which a lot of times is our white papers. So
Hmm.
they are research papers essentially written by machine learning researchers. So they are very dense and very complex with math that is way above my head. So a lot of times I will you lean on an LLM at that point to sort of
Okay.
summarize this for me. Um, as things have moved on, a really interesting way to kind of synthesize that information is using Google's God, why not deep research?
The
It was
Notebook
the
LM.
Notebook LLM, yeah. So
I use
LM,
that too. That
so
is
yeah,
great.
kind of turn it into a podcast, and that's been sort of fun. From there, I don't really heavily script. I kind of like bullet point, so it really is just kind of shooting at that point. And then so the way that the channel works is that it's a lot of me at desk on screen and then kind of popping back and forth. So coverage, a lot of times I always try to have something up on the screen every, it's that typical YouTube thing of every 5 or 6 seconds you've got to have like some kind of visual stimuli. And I think that that's part of my filmmaking background too. I nothing feels more boring to me than 10 seconds sitting on like a website or a screen.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I will use a lot of the video generators just to generate up interesting visuals for the background that are tangentially or somewhat related or thematically related to whatever I'm talking about.
But you're still
You know,
putting those in Premiere after or something, right? You're
Yes,
still
yeah, no,
yeah,
yeah, completely, yeah.
yeah.
I like to try little to build little mini movies or little mini examples of any tool that I'm reviewing. That's one way of keeping my skills sharp. It is hard. I think that you could probably pull off any kind of like AI film or short probably within a week. I just don't have the time to stop down for a week to do it.
Mhm.
A lot of times what I'll do is like 3 or 4 quick scenes, like kind of a 30-second examples. So I'm generally in some kind of image or video editor or a video generator at least once a day. In terms of the channel after that, I tend to do pretty well with recording my own audio. Every once in a while, you're going to run into hiccups. So when that does happen, Adobe's Podcast Enhance is a true lifesaver.
Wait a minute.
That's
You just
Yeah.
said a thing that I don't know, and I know all
Oh,
of
really?
the things.
That's been around for a little while now.
Really?
It's just, yeah, it's a little Adobe Podcast Enhance, and it's free.
Okay.
You could just upload an audio file to it, and it just kind of it spits you back a cleaned up version, and
Oh,
it
interesting.
has saved my butt more than once. So
Okay.
there was one live that I did literally on a convention floor with these like cheap
Lapel
lavalier
mics.
mics and
Yeah.
yeah, lapel mics, and it was picking up all kinds of background noises. So yeah, I ended up taking that down, running it through podcast, and it came back like I don't want to say studio quality, but it was like, wow, this
Oh,
is
wow. All
remarkably
right.
better. Yeah. So definitely something to probably check out. I've
Yeah.
not run across anything that does, there's a handful of tools out there. Time Bolt is one, Descript is another one, and Gling is another one that is like auto editing. So you can take all of your raw footage and dump it in. Um, and it'll clean up, basically find your best takes, all of that stuff, and kind of put everything
Yeah.
together. It works really well, I think, for podcasts. It does not work well for me because I record in 2 different video streams, and I've never been able to figure out a way to combine those video streams together, so
That
and then
brings up
have
a
it
really good
be
point because,
yeah.
yeah, when you're talking about video editing, I could
Mhm.
just quickly mention that, you're probably doing it in Premiere, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so am I. And, back in the day, it was Final Cut,
Final Cut,
for
yep, Final Cut
sure.
7, then to Premiere, yep.
And actually before that, it was like not Movie Maker, but,
Oh, yeah.
well, Movie Maker, but then after that was Vegas. Remember Vegas, which is still
Vegas, I
around?
used Vegas for a long time,
Yeah.
yeah, mhm.
I love Acid Pro. I just remember that
Acid
one.
Pro, I love that
Yeah.
one. I still have, I think, a folder somewhere of, like, Acid Pro
Oh,
loops. Yeah,
okay, wait.
some
I had a topic, and all of a sudden, I went right
okay, yeah.
back to going
It
back
was, the editing,
editing of it. Yeah.
yeah,
So we just were talking about your process. The two things that I think for me also haven't
mhm,
really fully been automated in AI, and I would actually probably want,
mhm,
which is that video with B-roll thing.
mhm,
Where so we finish, both of us make some content. This podcast is a great example.
mhm,
And I'm going to make clips out of this, and the
sure,
internet will only either listen to the audio or see
mhm,
us talk about one thing for 30
right,
seconds.
right,
And they probably won't watch the whole video. Maybe they will,
mhm,
but
mhm,
because of that visual thing. Now, if this 30-minute conversation had auto B roll that
mhm,
really was relevant
yeah,
and
mhm,
was pretty cool, I would do it. I would
yeah,
actually add that button. But I think that's not here yet, as well
mhm,
as when you said, like, for the audio as well, like syncing things up, we're doing all that stuff manually.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like in our day-to-day process as a content creator, and we're speaking for, like, I think all the content creators, AI
mhm.
just isn't there yet to help us, I think, fully get that content out with extra stuff.
I mean, there is a lot of time savers that have happened. Like, for example, in Premiere, we have auto transcribe now, right? That has been a massive game changer for me because generally when I'm editing or not, I'm sorry, when I'm shooting, I mean, I have a horrible it's I have a horrible ratio. It's like 5 screw ups to every one good
Oh,
take.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
that's funny.
And so I had some old tricks before we were able to auto transcribe where I would literally do the old clap trick, like a film clapper, so that I could look at the waveform in the thing and see a clap and go like, okay, so that whatever I said before that is the good take. Um, that the fact that yeah, we have auto transfer and like I don't even look at the bad takes now. All I do is go through the transcription list and find the last thing that I said on any one thing. I'm like, well, that's the good take, and then
Got
just
it.
move. Yeah, so that saved me like hours in just scrubbing through footage. So
Yeah.
that is one place that AI has really, really, really changed the production process for me.
Yeah, the caption thing too. Like, I've been using Capwing forever. I don't even know
Mhm.
Capwing. Um,
I've seen it before. Yeah, I've never used
it's
it.
probably the best still, in my opinion. I'm similar to you, where I just use all the tools, so
Mhm,
I
yeah,
can speak from authority.
yeah.
But Capwing's probably the best still when it comes to captions in general. Like,
Mm,
auto captioning
mhm.
just nails it every time, and then
Yep.
also, the type of font, the animation.
Right. Right.
So many different tools will do that as well.
Mhm.
Capwing, that was their main thing.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
they're like, "Bring your content to us. We will make the thing look really good with captions."
Mhm.
So, I've kept my subscription to them. I 100%, recommend them to everybody. Even if you have captions in your whatever software you're using, like, sometimes I just bring it over, like, the raw
Yeah.
file, and get them there. But I bring that up because that is, again, another, AI mixture
Mhm.
of just doing something and helping me do things faster.
Right. 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 That's really, I think that a lot of the like the sort of the doom crowd, and it's going to automate everything, is going to take all of our jobs. It's really not. It is definitely a thing that I think helps smaller teams accomplish more. And when you rely on the full automated process, it's the results are just going to look like full automated processes. You're not going to be able to create engaging content out of it.
Yeah.
You're still always going to have a human touch. Like even the AI editors, like for in terms of like an actual, like say like a cinematic production where you have, 3 or 4 cameras going, and you're deciding what take of the actress when she's crying is the best one you can use. I think that's always going to remain a human job. When to cut on the beat, when to cut, all of those things. You could probably develop something that would algorithmically, and wisely kind of stitch that together. I just ultimately I just don't think that it's still going to miss something, and it's still just not going to feel right.
Well, going back to music,
Hmm.
we have all sorts of automation for music, but
Sure.
a musician and someone who's a creator and an artist is that's the person.
Hmm.
And they're still doing that. Like I have a friend, Nate, who does like, beatbox and samples,
Yep.
and I could have all the same tools he has
Hmm.
and just not sound as good.
Not sound.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
he's incredible. And so like, yeah, it's just crazy to have,
Well,
um,
and that's another really fun aspect of with the Suno and Udio stuff too,
mm,
is that you can just prompt in like make me a hip hop beat with an orchestral, with orchestral hits that makes for a John Wick trailer or whatever you want it to be, and yeah, you'll get something probably pretty cool about it. But isn't it more fun to generate something up and then you lay music down on top of?
yeah.
Or the other really useful place that I've kind of found, like Suno and Yudi are both they're much better guitar players than I am. So a lot of times I'll record my version of a riff, upload it, and then it'll spit it back
Oh,
out to me. Not exactly the same as I did, but often it'll have like this kind of like phrasing or something that's just a little bit cooler than what I had.
yeah.
So it's a great tool to kind of bounce off of, and then I'll learn that version, and it's like this weird collaborative effort that we just put together.
Yeah,
So.
this comes up on the show all the time, and is kind of like the podcast is becoming the pro AI. Don't worry, don't be
Mhm.
so nervous about it, content creators, because it is that kind of companion.
Mhm.
And I make a lot of art, so I do a lot of AI art and video,
Mhm.
which we'll talk about in the next segment. And it is definitely like showing me something I didn't think about. But then
Right.
I'm like fine tuning it. I'm literally taking it in Photoshop and changing it. But
Mhm.
like it's giving me these things that I didn't even understand like I wanted. But then when
Yeah.
I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I do want that.
Mhm.
And so yeah, to me, it's always been this like a second person, thing helping me.
Yeah. It's always a great way of like the other thing is like, especially on the visual side of it, is when you get an unexpected output where you're like, oh, that's really cool. I don't know what that is just to take it back over to one of the LLMs, show them the picture and just say, like, break down what influences are in here. And that's a
Mm.
great way of like learning about other forms of art that you may not have been aware of. You know what I mean? Just and then you have a whole other branch of stuff that you can then go search up and be inspired by as well. So it kind of it has the ability to broaden your own mind as well if you are willing to take that extra step and learn.
You actually just revealed another way that you do use AI with the LLM
Mm-hmm.
then on a daily basis.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
that's
Oh, absolutely.
you throwing things back at it and
Hmm.
asking it questions. I feel like I don't do that enough during my day, but I see the positivity about it, the
Hmm.
potential. Let's move on to the second topic, which
Yeah.
is just something I wanted to talk to you about selfishly. I watch your videos. I make video and art every day.
Hmm.
I have this community and I make these weird sci-fi stuff and just
Cool.
post-apocalyptic. I love the dead mall stuff and
Yep.
liminal spaces.
That's
Um,
my scene right there. Just watched
oh,
Severance last night. Got caught up.
oh, so did I. So
Yeah.
did I. That's
Yeah.
a separate podcast, the Severance
Yep.
podcast. But we'll talk about liminal spaces offline because I do want to talk to you about that. But
Yeah.
like I every single new tool I use, I have the unlimited subscription for Minimax because that is
Mhm.
I think mandatory for
Yeah.
creators.
Yeah. I feel
Um,
that too.
it lets you just understand with image to video mainly.
Hmm.
You lets you literally fine tune the prompting,
Hmm.
also learn how to take your own content and animate it. And it's
Hmm.
just you have to have unlimited.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It takes I mean, for me, I think it's like at minimum any image that I'm trying to animate is in my head I'm guessing somewhere between 4 to 5 before we're starting to move into an area that I think is looking pretty
Oh yeah,
like close to what I'm looking for. So yeah, it's never one and done. Never.
I've had
Well,
a
actually no,
couple
I
one and
shouldn't say that.
dones. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
I've had a couple, yeah, I'm not
And it's yeah,
I
but
should not say never, but yeah.
yeah. But no, so I've used a lot of them. I mean, I've used all of them.
Mhm,
As soon as they, just like you, when it came on the market, when images got good, I started with Midjourney. Went my favorite, by the way. I think I talked to you about
mhm.
maybe in comments, but Ideogram. I've been since day
Yes.
one,
Big fan,
and
big fan.
I always go into the comments, kind of lurk on other people's channels and give them props because a lot of people would focus on the text, which is
Mhm,
great. But they've since day one,
mhm.
V1, but now they're on V2
Yeah.
have been incredible in humans, like just
King
straight
of
up
that.
human
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
interactions.
that too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm,
No one can even touch them still.
mhm. Yeah.
The VFX, what is it? The Google
Oh, Imagen 3.
Imagen 3, that one
Yeah.
is pretty close now when it
Mhm,
comes to like interactions. But back in
mhm.
the day, I'll nerd out for a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was mainly, and back in the day slash now, with
Mhm,
Stable Diffusion, Comfy UI, with all the different
mhm.
models, even Flux, a lot of them focus on humans as one person
Yes.
looking at camera, and it's
Yes.
always bothered me since day one because I was
Mhm.
like, in my mind, I saw the scene I wanted,
Yeah.
and it wasn't doing it. So
Yes.
Ideogram, since the beginning, was the first one and only one to make complex interactions.
Mhm.
A person is punching this person is like telling this
Yep.
person to go this way,
Yeah.
pointing, all that stuff.
Yep.
And so now with V2, they are still hands down the best at
Mhm.
interaction. Flux is
Very
getting
true, very
close, other ones are getting close, and I hear, contradictory ideas, but like in my opinion, it's still the best. And so my question though is,
Mhm.
even though it's very good,
Mhm.
um, I feel like we're still in this gray area where the dumb censorship still happens.
Sure.
And that's because it's cloud based. So I know that's
Mhm.
tied to a bunch of reasons.
Lots of stuff, yeah.
And then when it comes to video, the same
Mhm.
thing, besides censorship, besides prompting, like
Mhm.
capabilities.
Mhm.
I just feel like we're such in this gray area where it's not all one tool yet. And
No.
this is kind of a statement and a question.
Mhm.
I want it to be one tool because then I don't want to have to like go over to Comfy UI and plug a million things in,
Yeah.
and then they won't do the thing that Ideogram does. So I'm in this weird bubble where I'm using four pieces of software. So my
I th
question is, do you think it's going to be one software,
Yeah.
and how can that even be? Because there's going to be competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that eventually we will see a like one ring to rule them all platform, which I am actually not looking forward to. I don't know who it'll be. It could very easily, if Google gets it together, they could easily integrate all of this stuff in and become, the Sauron of the AI video space. It could be open AI if they opened up the doors on Sora and let everybody in on the Big Daddy Turbo model. It could be, or not the non-turbo model. It could be any one of the bigger Runway. I mean, to some degree, could Runway has a whole bunch of tools that are built into it. I'm not looking forward to that only because once that happens, everything starts to look homogenized. Like once
Mm,
everything's coming out of one model, it's all going to kind of have that same look. Remember, like when everybody suddenly noticed that all the Marvel movies kind of looked alike? It was just like, oh, this is all very bland.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's eventually what will I mean, I think that great artists will always find a way to break out of that look, like, that's what we do, um, but I think that you're just gonna see a whole bunch of I'm not gonna say not pretty, but, it's gonna be that look for a while, so I think that kit bashing will stick around for a while. The solution, I think, to a lot of the stuff that, pose control and you end up with a lot of like innocuous red flags when you're trying to do something very simple. Like I remember a prompt ages ago in Midjourney that was like a dead zombie laying in the street. It was kind of like a Walking Dead kind of image that I was trying to
Mm,
get out, and Midjourney just would not give me dead zombie, like a dead zombie. I don't know why. Like it's a dead zombie. It's not. It's just dead.
yeah.
But I was able to get around it by prompting a napping zombie. It was just sleeping. It was just
Oh,
tired,
he's just
and it was just
taking a
laying
little
there taking a
nap.
little nap.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there are always like tricks to get around these things. I think the solution ultimately will probably be more when we start moving into something like Midjourney's been talking about, where we're kind of able to edit within a 3D scene. So you'll be able to almost like hitting pause in a video game, and then going into photo mode and just being able to sort of traverse within that scene,
Yeah.
and then some level of pose control of your characters. Then, although we are then moving into we're all 3D modelers as well all of a
Right.
sudden.
And
So,
it
you know,
changes.
it's like it changes how we all work.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
changes
Yeah.
the creation process, doesn't it?
Mhm. So, I don't know if ultimately that will I know people are working on it. I just don't know necessarily if that's going to be widely adopted only because, it introduces a whole new set of, problems, as we work, and an entirely different workflow than the way that we're used to.
Yeah.
Although, if we do have that, I mean, something like first frame, last frame, that becomes a powerhouse at that point where you can literally, get your first frame and then pose your character and change your camera for your
Yeah.
last frame and then generate video in between. That's huge.
It's like tweening, but
Tweening, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so that actually, just for our listeners, there is two conversations there that I sloppily put together, which is censorship is one thing
Sure.
and pose control is the second. And you helped
Mhm.
me explain that it's two different things. They're both issues right now. I think the
Right.
pose control for me is just I wouldn't mind. I don't want one tool either. I
Mhm.
like competition, and I should probably just appreciate this kind of fun middle that we're in,
Oh, yeah. So
um,
great right now.
because some of my creations are like incredible, and I go,
Mhm.
"Oh, I got that because I use four tools."
Right, right,
Um,
right.
and and Carlos used four tools, right? And
Mhm.
Tim used four tools,
Mhm.
so that's the art coming out.
Yep.
Um, but I would like just at least more of the tools to kind of come together on how they do pose control because
Yeah.
it right now it really feels like it's a line divided where it's a lot of facing camera thing I'm talking about,
Mhm.
and on the other side there's a bunch of post control, but the two aren't meeting. Like
Right.
I just
Yeah,
want
yeah,
some of
yeah.
that synergy to come together is all.
Mhm.
uh,
I will say that I've talked to a couple of people that were early on and playing with this. There was a company called Fondant. I don't know if they're still around. That kind of had it was essentially like 3D Studio Max or Blender Lite, sort of AI'd. The problem with it was that it still looked like Blender or 3D Studio Max. It still had the traditional 3D software layout, and I think that there is people are either native to that and understand it or they really don't, and that's why I think it just never kind of these kinds of that kind of workflow just has never really worked because people get really turned off when they see the 3D whippet and all of that
so do
stuff.
I.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, they just
Yeah.
get it's just like what am I doing? I'm really confused
Well,
and scared. So
and that's similar to the game stuff, which we won't get into maybe another show, but like
mhm,
the video game stuff that is on the way, and I'm already been
yeah,
using some of it, is a similar where it's like if I see the Unity engine, which
mhm,
I've used, and
yeah,
if I see Unreal,
mhm,
my brain goes,
yeah, yeah. Oh no,
um,
yeah, yeah,
and then I like get like sweaty and worried, even though it's
uh-huh.
like, but but if it's just like the one, what's that one they showed? Was it Google where it's like just prompt the
Oh
RPG or
yeah,
the open
Genie
world game.
2. Yeah, Genie 2. Yeah,
Yeah, and so it's
yeah.
like then that's a different kind of thing. So yeah, it's all about the tool does really kind of pun intended prompt how the artist is doing the art,
Mhm.
like that. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna like where we're at then. I'm gonna shut up
Yeah. No,
because
I like to think of them like currently where we're at is and going back to just as straight content creators, it's like having a team of 50 really eager interns working under you, and then half of them are stoned and the other half are drunk, and you kind of have to like manage all of them together to really get what you're looking for out of
that's
them, but they're
good.
all really excited to work for you. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, they're hallucinating for sure.
they're hallucinating for sure, yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Okay, this is our last topic. We're almost done.
Yeah,
This is just flying right by. We'll have to
yeah.
have you back on the show because come on,
Oh, for sure,
we could
would love
talk
to.
forever.
Mhm,
Um, Speaking of tools that kind of maybe feel homogenized or maybe
mhm,
like are a bringing it to the masses, the VO2 I
mhm,
saw from your channel
yeah,
didn't really launch, but it's
mhm,
kind of still on the wait list for a lot of people. But the mobile version did
right,
launch,
mhm.
which I finally found. It's hidden
It's super hidden, yeah.
in YouTube app. You have to go to
Mhm,
Shorts for our listeners. You have to go
yep,
to YouTube. Then you have to go into Shorts after you're in your account. Then you
mhm,
hit the add button, and then you hit create.
Create, yeah. You have to
Yeah,
get into your camera roll, and then it's kind of I think you even have to move your camera roll down a little bit to
to
bring down
see it.
create. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's annoying, but once you finally get there, it's, very, limited, I think,
Mhm.
and it's letting you do things like you create an image, then you pick which image you like, and then you take that image and make a video out of it,
Yeah.
and then it makes a YouTube short out of it, and there
Mhm.
you go.
Yeah.
I did a few as a test. Some were pretty good. I mean, definitely the movement I feel like was good when it comes to like hands, and I
Mhm.
didn't see as much like trailing as I do in Minimax sometimes.
Yeah.
So that part was cool. But I don't know, it brings up the point of like making it for everybody
Mhm.
in a limited sense. Again, I feel
Mhm.
like all the things that I use on a daily basis when it comes to ideograms complexity
Mhm.
into mini max complexity, which is another prompt,
Yeah.
coming out to something really, unique.
Mhm.
This has a very simple version.
Yeah.
So what are your
I
thoughts
think
on it besides what you already talked about in your show?
so it 100% is a turbo model. Running if anybody is interested, they can watch the video on my channel. I do run the same prompt in so there is a web version of it that is the Big Daddy version, I guess is what
Hmm.
we'll call it. And so I ran a test where I ran the same prompt in the mobile version versus the Big Daddy version. I mean, the differences are it's pretty noticeable.
Yeah.
The turbo model, I think, is definitely shows why they why Google, YouTube decided on this is that it is super stupid fast. From prompt to image to generated video, what would you say? Less 45 seconds? I mean, less than a
It's
minute,
like a
right?
minute. Yeah. A minute or so. Yeah.
Yeah. And that I think really goes to show like they're not aiming for, power users who are trying to create, their cinematic universes or anything like that. They're looking for the mobile users that are looking for like a quick, like, here's a shot of my cat, make it jump, or whatever. Like um cute cats, cute babies, that sort
Funny
of thing.
things.
Yeah, funny things. Like more, yeah, social media meme stuff. And frank, like most, it's like I'm going to take a shot at shorts viewers here, but like, most shorts viewers, they're pretty ADHD. They're not going to stick around for 2.5, 3 minutes that it's going to take to generate an actual shot up that we normally are used to when we use these video tools. You're on your phone, and I mean, look, I'm not even taking shots necessarily. I'm probably just as bad. If I'm holding my phone, I'm like, ugh, I gotta wait for this thing for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see what else is going. Let me check Twitter. Let me check let me
Yeah.
check my email. Let me check. Oh, I just got a text. It's like you will quickly. It has to be fast. So I think they've probably pared down the model to make it as quick as it can. And that is going to take a hit on resolution. It's going to take a hit on imagination. You can't actually prompt for motion in this either. You can generate an image and then it kind of decides what
It
it's going to
decides it.
do with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
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 So I think all of that is built to remove friction from essentially what is probably more of a typical shorts TikTok creator who is doing more of this. They're just the blah 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 talking on their phone, like, oh, I can do this now. I can add this thing in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think their thought is more like generating B-roll and for YouTube Shorts, I don't know. I didn't go over this in the video too, but there is an auto rotoscoping feature in there as well, where you can
Oh,
remove the background from yourself and then generate VO2 footage behind you as well. So I think that that's kind of more the direction that they're going in, but I think it's a good first step because it's going to introduce a whole new audience, not even an audience, a whole new group of content creators to that maybe have been a little bit wary of using generative AI tools. That this is kind of the first. Oh, it's not that great, ha ha ha. But maybe I can get this something out of it. I think that's an important first step of like anybody that has not been interested in it before to try it suddenly feel like, oh, I'm not that afraid of it because it didn't do what I wanted it to.
right.
And then maybe a month later be like, oh, you know what? Maybe we can get something out of it. And then, actually get a generation that's worth it. And then they'll start to sort of see the value of it.
Or
So
they might like graduate to other software.
that's my guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
My guess
because
is that by that point, a month or two down the road, you will see Big Daddy VO out in the
right.
world. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I talked to other content creators and some of them were a little frustrated by it because they were like, oh, this like levels the playing field in a bad way where like just anyone can do what we've been trying to do this whole
Mm,
time. But I think the answer to that question is, back to the artistry. There's always be
mhm,
artists, But
Yep.
secondly, a bunch of us, you included and me included, have been using them since they came out, and there is a secondary prompting skill that
Yes.
isn't just fixed by LLMs. It's kind of
Mhm.
like Carlos has a version, Tim
Right.
has a version.
Yep.
Yours involves a man in a blue business suit. Mine
Yeah.
involves sci-fi and dead malls. And
Uh-huh.
but there's things that I learned. It is a new coding language. Like a straight
Mhm.
up, it's a new language.
I agree. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so I feel like you can have a bunch of leveling the playing field, but
Mhm.
creators are still going to create.
And you still need to have, like, I think you still need to have good story in there. You have to have good storytelling ideas and technique in there. You still have to know. You still have to be more than halfway a decent editor, especially in the shorts game.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of other ancillary skills that are there. I was just getting actually in the VO2 comments recently. There's been a lot of like pushback because I think it's like YouTube's probably pushing it out to a further audience. But oh great, now my shorts feed is just going to be filled with a bunch of like AI generated slop. I'm like, not really, because the YouTube algorithm is really good at burying stuff that people don't want to watch. So
Right.
if you're not interested in it, you probably won't see it. And I think I looked it up for one of the comments. There are 772,000 hours a day of video uploaded to YouTube. I mean, it's insane. That is
Crazy.
insane. Um, Look, will that number hit a million and above once everybody's like, creates a AI agent that just churns out videos and uploads? Sure. Like YouTube's just going to bury it because they're
Yep.
not going to crash. Like they're not going to crash YouTube with a bunch of like, AI generated
Yeah, yeah,
content.
yeah.
That said, if you've got like a filmmaker like Dave Clark out there, like that's really crushing it with AI films, then yeah, I mean, those will get served up.
Yep,
So
yep.
because they're good, because he's a filmmaker.
The cream rises to the crop, as they
Always, yeah.
say.
Mhm.
Wait, is that what it is?
Yes, I believe so. The crop. Yes, it's a
Isn't
crop
it?
sensor. Yeah, top. I think cream rises
Top.
to the
Cream
top.
rises
Yeah,
to the top. Did I say
yeah,
cream rises to the crop?
yeah.
I became
Cream rises to the
editing.
crop. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's it. The podcast is over now because I
yeah.
have
It works. Still
literally
works.
I'm starting to hallucinate. Tim, thanks for being here. We'll
Yeah,
have
hundred
to
percent.
have you back on the show because I
Would
think
love
you
to.
and I
Yeah,
could talk forever.
absolutely.
And everybody check out your YouTube channel. I mean, they
Yeah.
already are, but if they
No,
don't,
they can.
theoretically media on YouTube.
Mhm.
And are you doing content anywhere else besides there?
I've been playing around a little bit with shorts. So I popped a couple onto TikTok. TikTok doesn't care about me. I'm not pretty enough for Instagram. So
Oh, come
yeah, you got to have all the cool lights and be much more fashionable than I am for Instagram. So really, no, it's like truthfully, YouTube is more or less my platform. So
all right. Well, people check
yeah,
out his show. It is worth it every single time.
appreciate it.
And Tim, thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you later.
100%. Looking forward. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.